welcome to this week's episode of Wednesday's Winning Woman. Thank you for joining us. Our guest this week is no stranger to anyone. She's truly an icon in this space that you've either heard on stage or seen working trade shows or evidenced some of her many marketing initiatives as she's worked and progressed through this industry. She's a formerly VP of marketing for Net Fortis, a senior manager of marketing for TPX, and of course, a board member holding a few positions actually for the Alliance of Channel Women. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Ms. Raquel Wiley to our show. I'm fine. How you doing?
I mean, I got to be doing great. When you get a call from the legend to join the podcast, I said I done did something right. I done did a lot of stuff wrong, but I'm like, I done did something right to be honored to, be able to be on a podcast and have a conversation with Mr. Knight.
Oh, you've done a lot right, and I'm glad that you're taking the opportunity to do this. I'm sure that our listeners are going to enjoy this. So I'm gonna jump right in because there's a lot going on. We have our standard 3 questions. But before I get to the questions, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now? What stage from a career perspective?
Yeah, Brandon, I'm actually very excited to share that I'm ending a sabbatical. So back in October, yes.
I thought you had some more time left. See, so I'm learning now too.
Yeah. So back in October, after being with Net Fortis for a little over a year, and successfully helping put that company in position to be acquired, which is one of the tasks that we were asked to do as a senior leadership team. I was a part of a workforce reduction, which is going on right now in our space.
Yeah.
And initially, I was like, probably like a lot of our colleagues was like, let me hurry up and get back on the market, start networking, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And then, talking to one of my mentors, they were like, have you ever taken a break? And I said,
exactly.
I'm like, actually, no. He posed it to me a couple of different ways and got me to thinking. And so I said, you know what, if there was ever a good time to just take a break, to step away. I thought about it. I have been very, blessed to be gainfully employed for the past 29 years. Yeah. Never took time off other than to, have the babies and, some small little things here or there, but never just take some time off to really like step back and regroup and do what, we talk about each and every day, which is the self-care. And so I, decided that I was going to, take off up until, March. So it's been great. It's given me time to really rethink what this next season in my career looks like. It's been a great ride, ups and downs like everyone else. But it's given me the opportunity to re-look and rethink, what does this next season look for me? What type of opportunities I want to seek after, what type of companies, making sure that whatever I go after and wherever I land, which I know that I'll land well, is that, how making sure that it aligns to my personal, goals and aspirations, and not just chasing the dollar.
Yes. Yeah. And I was thinking about that and how awesome it is, first of all, to be blessed enough to be in a position where you can take the break, right? Let's acknowledge that. And then that idea, that maturity that says, when my break is over, I'm still going to make a conscientious decision. Because like you said, when first impacted, and we know it's happening all over our industry, when first impacted, your natural reaction, right? Your natural response says, "Oh my God, I got to get back on the horse as fast as possible," because that the horse is what keeps me on the track, sort of thing. And I heard you were on a sabbatical and actually taking time to assess things. And honestly, it's one of the reasons why, besides what you've accomplished so far, I wanted to have you be a part of this, because there are a lot of people in similar situations, and it's hard sometimes to clear your mind and kind of get to a safe space where you can make those types of decisions and not be pressured by whatever the external forces are. So thanks for joining us, and thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, and what I would say too is that, others that you, and you're right, there's a lot of people being impacted, right?
Mhm.
And not everyone can, let's be honest, everyone has bills to pay, families to feed. But I would, after doing this, I would encourage anyone that is able
Yeah,
um, to take, take time. It may not be, for the length of time that I took. Maybe it's, 30, 45 days, but, definitely, that self-care hits a little bit different,
yeah,
in today's time.
I agree. Thank you. All right, so let's talk um pre-sabbatical. You've done a lot. You got a lot of stuff done in a short period of time in this space. You mentioned the impact you had on getting that Fortis ready, but share with our audience an accomplishment or something you're proud of, and it could be career based or personal based. Doesn't really matter. Something that you look back on and you go, you know what? Yeah, I did that, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, there's a couple, but I think if there's one, when I think about, because I'm only 21, right?
Mhm.
But when I think about, like you say, we grow in stages, right? And so at this age, it's more about what are we doing to be that's impactful, that's going to help really not only impact the moment that it can potentially have some generational type of impact,
Mhm.
whether it's in our workspace or at home. And so in that, I think the one that I'm most proud of is, making the decision to start
Yeah,
speaking up and being an advocate, being bold enough to step outside of the box and speaking for those who may not, and I'm not gonna say they're not as courageous, but maybe they didn't feel as comfortable
hmm,
of speaking up. And that first started with the Alliance of Channel Women. When I joined
yeah,
that board, I was the first African American woman that they had on the board.
hmm,
Um, and, although we were doing a lot of great things together collectively, trying to create, better working environments for women, right work, right, dollar for women, right?
right,
What I start seeing is that, guys, we're doing a lot of good things, but diversity is so much more than just gender.
hmm,
Yes, in our
exactly,
space, there is a deficit, there's a 30-70, there's a gap here, and we're going to continue to, advocate for women to make sure that they can, open up doors to leadership roles or whatever roles that they may have, and making sure they're being compensated accordingly.
hmm,
But let me bring the elephant in the room. Raquel is the first African American woman,
yeah,
on your board. And often at that time, when we would have our various functions, I didn't see too many women like myself around the room.
hmm,
And so one of the things that I was proud about is starting to get that board to start thinking about diversity a little bit different, and starting to, have them think outside of just gender and start thinking
yeah,
about all of those less represented groups within the community in which we were serving.
right,
And so, when I think, today, the fact that there are multiple African American women on the board
yeah,
doing the
right,
darn thing,
yeah,
and we go to those different functions, and even just, throughout across the country, there's different initiatives and programs that they're running, and to see so much diversity with race, with even us starting to really support our LGBTQ plus community within that organization. So that's one of the things that I'm extremely proud about. And it just took one day me looking myself in the mirror and saying, "Are you gonna say something?"
yeah,
Like, like it's time to say something. And it was before, COVID. It was before, it was a popular discussion.
right,
But just being bold enough to say, you know what, like this is volunteerism work, and you have to be doing something that you're passionate about. And while you're passionate about women, young women, you're also passionate about, women who are underrepresented
yeah,
and don't really have a voice, and they don't feel comfortable. So that's one of the things that I'm really proud about, is just standing up and starting to just have those difficult conversations and starting to help bridge the gap for people of color, women of color in that space. And then starting to do it in other organizations like, TPX and some of the others.
Yeah, I really like that, especially when you look at ACW now, like you said, and the things that they're focused on, how they've branched out, and so it's yeah. So kudos to you. It's
Thank
good to see
you.
them progressing.
Yeah.
So I got one more. I mean, I got two more, but what for now is so I know you're coming off of sabbatical, so that's one of your things for this year. Give us another goal. Give us one of the things one of the things that we talk about on the show is that successful people are planners. They're forward thinking. It's not just about where you are, it's where you're going, right? So what's one of the goals you have for yourself for 2023?
One of the goals that I have for myself, outside of continuing to do the work that we do, because I stepped away from that too. So when I took a sabbatical, I kind of just, stepped back. But one of the things that I want to accomplish this year is, believe it or not, I want to take a business writing class.
Oh, okay.
So, I'm going to, like it's been a while, even though I'm only 21. It's been a while. So I want to take a business writing class. And then the other thing that I want to accomplish this year, a goal of mine, is making sure that I remain to have a work-life balance. We talk about that all the time.
Yep.
And yet, after like February, right now, like Brandon is probably catching flights every other day. We really don't do it. So I want to make sure that I am grounded and stay grounded, and make sure that I accomplish having a true work-life balance and not getting too caught up on either side. That's where I'm finding my best self is. When I'm too much into the work, then home is suffering. And of course, if we're too much, steady at home, then of course, we're not being successful in our workplace. So I want to, like I started meditating and things of that nature. So I really, that's a huge goal of mine, to stay grounded and keeping that work-life balance, to say my better self.
Yeah, and I've heard you talked about the meditating. I've heard a few people say that, and some people do mention meditating. Some people mention yoga and breathing exercises. I actually saw there's a woman, one of the icons that'll be on later in the year, who actually, like, that's her whole business. She teaches breathing exercises and stuff like that, and how to balance and stuff like that. So I think that's great, and it's much needed. I mean, we the pace of this industry is pretty crazy. I mean, people who haven't been in it probably wouldn't understand it. But several people have mentioned that. So I'll point some of them your way as it comes up. You guys can learn together.
Yeah, please do. And if anybody's teaching, definitely let me know.
Yeah,
I
I will
think we
do
need to
that.
have more of that when we have these channel partner shows and stuff. We need to have more of that focused on that for all of us.
That's a good idea for the trade show. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So the last one's kind of fun. So this is this is kind of like our look back, right? The old hindsight thing. So this is your opportunity to give advice to your younger self. If you could go back and say, like, just one thing that you think would help you either balance or speed up the process, or whatever it is, what advice would you give?
I would tell the younger Raquel that don't be too rigid.
Yeah.
Don't be too rigid, that it's okay to go outside the box.
Okay.
Outside the box, I have experienced my most growth. So if I could have started that at a younger age, just really having confidence in who I am and what it is that I brought to the table in corporate America, I probably would have been further along, even though I there's no mistakes. I'm exactly where I need to be. But I would say, girl, go outside, quit being so rigid. Everything doesn't have to be perfect. Every project doesn't have to be, buttoned up down to, the nitty gritty. It's like, it's okay to go outside the box. It's okay to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we learn so much and we grow so much. So like, don't be afraid to go outside of the box and just quit being so rigid.
Yeah, it's
You know,
interesting that you put it that way, being rigid, because I do. I mean, not just with these interviews, but just in general, when you talk to successful people, they do sometimes get caught, I guess, early on, because they have in their mind what the vision is, right? What the goal
oh
is.
yeah.
And
Mhm.
and that goal, when you're dreaming and envisioning it, is perfection. and
Oh
and
yeah.
and then and then sometimes along the way, you yeah, some people get so caught in trying to make sure that everything is aligned, all the boxes are checked, and all the I's are dotted, and everything's perfect. But you're right, that does kind of slow down the progression and the growth, because when we when we get a little older in this, we realize that you can get started at like 70%, because you're going to change and build the rest of it anyway.
You already know that, right? And
Yeah.
it's interesting that you say that, Brandon, because the last couple of years, that's what I would tell my teams, especially when I would be having people on the team who were a little bit younger, just starting their careers.
Mm-hmm.
I would tell them that all the time. Sometimes, and I'm sure that you've seen it. They're looking to you as the leader to kind of, you're leading at the vision, but at times they're also wanting you to kind of lead and stir the project, and you're like, no, that's for you to do. I've planted the seed. And I would tell them, you know what, guess what, it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
And it's okay if we need to restart.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay too. But like, don't be like, this is not like, we're not solving world hunger. We're not in the
Exactly.
medical field. We're in telecom managed services. And it's okay if something drops. Matter of fact, it's not if things are going to drop. Things are going to drop.
Exactly.
And as long as we pick it up quickly and we keep moving. But I always told my team that, like, you know what, guys, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like I'm expecting something's going to go wrong.
Right.
I don't care how much planning we do.
Yeah.
Something's going to happen. Something's going to go wrong, and it's perfectly okay. And we're going to learn. That's the great thing. It's
Exactly.
like
We're,
we're going
we're
to
going
look
to
for
learn
that
from it. And I
opportunity.
think that
We're going to
almost,
learn from it.
yeah, it almost becomes its own barometer sometimes, because
Yeah.
it's not about what went wrong or what dropped or what we forgot. It's what's the adjustment. How quickly can you recoup from it? How quickly can you get back up? Right.
Right.
And
Right.
and
But our
and
younger selves didn't know that. Our younger selves didn't know that I used to live by a code that said there is no room for failure.
wow.
And that started off, just real quick, it started off with me being, I got married young and divorced young.
Hmm.
So failing my children, a lot of what I did, the moves that I made, professionally, was because I knew they were watching, and
Right.
that they depended upon me. So I couldn't fail them.
Hmm.
But I took that thing too serious in corporate America to say that failure is not an option. It's like, no, failure is definitely an option.
It's
you
going to
know,
happen.
it's because it's going to happen. It's not the how, it's not the what, it's the how. And again, the lessons, behind it. So
Mhm.
again, younger Raquel girl, loosen up a little bit.
Yeah.
Don't be so rigid. Go outside the box. There's so much growth, so much creativity and innovation outside the box for you.
Mhm.
And just be bold and be you. Outside the box is where you is like really where you settled in at. Like I
Yeah.
really began to understand who I was, good, bad, or
Mhm.
indifferent. Is outside the box.
Yeah, yeah, we learn from those. That's awesome. That's some useful things that people watching can use to apply to their lives as well. So thank you so much
Absolutely.
for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Honored,
Thank you for
honored.
the
Thank you
time.
for calling. Like I said, when I saw a call, I said, wait a minute, the
But
king, the king himself,
you're like, wait a minute,
the
something
king
happened.
of
Something
R&B.
happened.
You're the king of the community. I'm like, oh my God, I am honored. Of course, I'm gonna make hey,
Uh,
clear the schedule. Whatever it
well,
is, clear
I
the schedule.
listen. I appreciate that. This is going to be really impactful. And for those of you in our audience, remember, we have a charge. I thank you for watching. But remember, our charge is to acknowledge, support, and promote. So if you're not already a part of Raquel's network on LinkedIn, go ahead and follow her, join it, become a part of that. Watch what she posts, watch what's going on next. We know she's coming off a sabbatical. So if there's an opportunity for you to support her and promote what she's doing, do that as well. And that's how we grow. That's how we grow our network. And that's how we grow our strength and keep moving forward in this space. So thank you for watching. I'll see you next week.